Good morning, honored guests from home and abroad. Welcome to you all in ABMF Karim Symposium. Let us take a moment to reflect on the remarkable legacy of the late Professor Dr. ABM Fazli Karim, whose vision and dedication have made this event and so much more. Professor Karim was not only a pioneer in oncology, but also a dreamer with an unyielding commitment to advancing cancer care in Bangladesh. With great determination, he founded the Oncology Club Bangladesh in 1996 and creating a platform that united the professionals, resources, ideas for the betterment of oncology in this region. He believed deeply in empowering his fellow oncologists and mentoring younger generation to carry forward the torch of this mission. Today, his vision lives on through the relentless effort of his colleagues, juniors, and successors. This session is held in his honor. To lead us in this discussion, we are privileged to have two eminent figures. We already have the legendary Professor Dr. M.A. Hai, the patron SFO Chairman of Oncology Club in the stage, and joining him, Professor M.S. Salam Sir, the former Chairman and Professor, Department of Uro-Oncology, BSMMU, and the President, Urology and Transplant Foundation of Bangladesh. I will request the chairperson to take this seat on the stage. This session is moderated by Dr. Mustafa Aziz Suman Sir, the General Secretary of the Oncology Club, and we have four eminent speakers from abroad. Before we proceed, allow me to briefly introduce myself. I am Dr. Monjur Muntahi, MD resident from the Department of Radiation Oncology in NICRH. It is an honor to me to serve as the reporter in these sessions, and I look forward to discussions and insight that will emerge from these sessions. Without further delay, I would like to invite our esteemed moderator to take the stage and guide us through today's presentation. Thank you.
So thank you. So this is the most prestigious, one of the most prestigious sessions of our whole today's program, the ABMF Karim Symposium. As you know, he is the founder of our club. So let me introduce our first presenter, Dr. David Collingridge. He is the chief editor of Lancet, and he is going to present the Lancet's role in health advocacy, policies, and activities. Dr. David Collingridge.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank the organisers for inviting me. I'm going to spend a few minutes of your time talking around the Lancet's role in politics, advocacy, and activism. I'm going to be covering a few areas, really. First of all, talking a little bit about the journal itself and the journals that we have and the collective activism within those journals. I'm then going to talk a little bit around the Lancet Oncology's mission and advocacy. I'm then going to talk particularly around our flagship output, which is the Commission's program, and how we then use the journal's voice to amplify and influence around the world. So let me start. Where did it all begin? So the Lancet is just over 200 years old, and it started with this chap here. This is Thomas Wackley. He was the founding editor of the Lancet. He was a surgeon, a member of Parliament, and a coroner, and a real radical reformer of the Victorian age. And he founded the Lancet to root out corruption and quackery and to challenge the medical establishment. He actively campaigned against incompetence, privilege, and nepotism. They were his words in the first editorial he ever wrote in the first issue. So he wasn't pulling his punches. And perhaps this is an interesting side comment, but the Lancet was and still is registered as a newspaper, not a medical journal. And that might sort of give you some indication that we are at heart, our DNA is very much in the journalistic endeavour, looking for the political, looking at how we can change the world, really, and how we can hold people and medicine accountable for their actions. And why are we called the And this is actually a nice little wordplay in English. So a lancet can be a church window, this arched window, or it can be a surgical blade. It has two meanings. And again, in the first editorial written back in 1823, Thomas Wackley said, "A lancet can be an arched window to let in the light, or it can be a sharp surgical instrument to cut out the dross, and I intend to use it in both senses." So I think it's quite a nice little play on words. Now today, we're more than just one single journal. We're 24 journals. This activism is in our DNA. We're all health activists, individually and collectively as a group. We're actually launching additional journals next year, so there'll be 28 journals by the end of next year. So we've got this huge body of platforms and in-house editorial teams who can really advocate for change beyond the papers. Publishing a paper is the start of the journey. It's not the end of the journey. So at the Lancet Oncology, what's our mission statement around advocacy? Well, our advocacy program maps out the inequalities and inequities in health systems worldwide. It highlights deficiencies in all aspects of cancer care, health policy, structural organisation, and leadership. The program offers a neutral platform to bring together thought leaders from across different disciplines and organisations to offer solutions to those barriers that hinder the provision of high-quality cancer control, irrespective of the socioeconomic status or country of residence. We aim to use the journal's international and influential voice to deliver the best science for better lives. Now, we have a number of advocacy programs that we work across. I'm going to talk today particularly around commissions, as they're our flagship output, but we also do series, and for those of you who were here yesterday, and those of you who have seen the social media campaign around the series on cancer control in the SARC nations that was published just last week, and I think you've got the little flyer in your bags. We also do bespoke treatment guidelines, which is very interesting and apt, given the conversation just a few moments ago. We also run our own conferences. We have a big conference coming up in Shanghai on cancer control in China in February. We're involved in a lot of government activities through a number of partners, and Susie Stanway is here from London Global Cancer Week, and we work very closely with her and that undertaking. And we also do a lot of community interaction through various activities. So we can talk a little bit about commissions. So the commissions, again, are part of the fabric of the Lancet. Our first commission was published in the 1860s. They've been going on for quite some time, over a century of commissions. And at the Lancet Oncology, our commissions program aims to map out the patient journey from prevention through to the end of life. We look at global cancer control and regional variation. We look at affordable cancer care, inefficiencies in health systems and governance, and we advocate for change. And we do that through accessing all and any levers of change. And yesterday was a good example when we were able to meet the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. So the journal has published a lot of commissions to date. You can see here the list of those that we've published, covering a lot of areas. Our first commission was on affordable healthcare and affordable cancer care. But we've done commissions across Latin America, India, Russia, China, in modalities such as radiotherapy and surgery, primary care, palliative care, childhood cancer. So we're covering the real gamut across all of the cancer control spectrum. We also have a number of commissions underway, including a second commission on palliative care, which is really more of a philosophical debate, looking at whether we have a humanitarian crisis in cancer care, whether we've lost sight of the holistic view of the patient as an individual. We have a commission ongoing on cancer omics. This is a big area, of course, big data, AI, and how we integrate that into our health systems in an affordable, accessible, and safe way. We have an ongoing, we've worked with the White House on the Moonshot program. We published a Moonshot commission back in 2017, and we now have the second commission coming. we're going to reframe a little bit because obviously Moonshot is in its dying embers, but the theme of that commission is extremely relevant. It's mapping out the cancer workforce deficit in 2 major areas of the world and understanding what the drivers are and how we can fill the gaps. And we also have an ongoing commission with the Commonwealth Secretariat, which includes a lot of the countries here in the room, and that's 56 countries, and we're developing a cancer roadmap and cancer plan for the 56 countries. And then we have some other commissions under in negotiation. As I mentioned, we've done a lot of commissions. We've done 14 so far, but we have others coming along. But the key thing, and this is a driver, I think, of this meeting, is that collaboration is key. You only really deliver change by collaboration. And you can see here, this is a commission in 2021 on cancer imaging. The number of societies that we brought together to come up with a collective voice and drive this mission, which looked at actually the cost effectiveness of bringing in medical imaging into health systems and cancer imaging into health systems. And I think the power of the Lancet is we are very much a neutral venue. We have no political affiliation, no society affiliation. So we're a bit like Switzerland. We're entirely neutral, which means all these societies can come together in a safe space and work together with no individual agendas. And we will sit there and sort of host everyone and moderate the undertaking. But as I mentioned, publishing a paper or publishing the report, our commissions are published with these distinctive black cover reports, is only the start of the journey. It's actually what you use that commission for. And this was in 2022, so this was, for many of us, our first trip out of our homes post-COVID. I remember my wife saying to me, well, I think my wife was quite pleased I was going out of the home after a couple of years to get rid of me. But the first trip to Ghana was quite a large jaunt after being stuck at home, but it was a fantastic week spent in Ghana promoting cancer control in sub-Saharan Africa. And as you can see here, we had a wonderful launch event in Accra, attended by the First Lady of Ghana, the lead commissioners and the Minister of Health. But we also traveled around Ghana and we visited the King of Kumasi and all of the local tribes that sit within his scope of influence. And that was a really important meeting because actually a lot of advocacy and a lot of work can be done in the regional and ground level. And by getting the tribal leaders on board, I think that was perhaps more potent than getting the Minister of Health on board. We also were lucky enough to meet the former president of Ghana, John Kufuor, very aspirational individual for the country. And of course, we ran press conferences and there was a big media campaign around that, TV and advocacy and so forth. But we didn't stop there. And actually, one of our speakers who follows me, you can see in the top picture here, Will Ungwa, we had the launch in Accra, but we also followed it up with a second launch in Abuja, in Nigeria, and then a third launch in Tanzania, again with the Ministers of Health, and then a further launch at the Tanzanian Embassy in Washington, DC. And we've had subsequent follow-up meetings with the new with the Tanzanian embassy to the US again, and the new Minister of Health for Zanzibar. So we're continuing to push this message. And by pushing this message, using those political levers, you're able to enact change. And one of the big outputs from this commission in particular, there's a new comprehensive cancer hospital being built in Ghana, near where the King of Kumasi resides, actually. But we've also seen in Tanzania, for example, HPV vaccination has been implemented on the back of this commission. And so far, 800,000 girls have been vaccinated. So it's had a really massive impact. And the discussion that I and my colleagues had with the Minister of Health in Zanzibar is now, you've done it once, how do you keep doing it? You can't stop now. So now it's about sustainable funding. So what is the legacy of these commissions? Well, the legacy is incorporation into intergovernmental and governmental resolutions and policies. The Cancer Imaging Commission, as I mentioned, that's actually, we have drafted a World Health Assembly resolution, which is going to go through the WHO in 2025. It's under committee scrutiny in January next year. So that's a big undertaking if we can get the necessity of cancer imaging written into the World Health Assembly's resolutions. A previous Lancet Commission on Diagnostics has already been written into the World Health Assembly's resolutions. So if you put the two together, you have two resolutions there that look at both diagnostics and imaging as a collective and as a must for all UN nations. I think this is a really big political step forward. Obviously, implementation, as we've heard in the previous session, is supremely tricky. But if you have buy-in and leadership from the top, in theory, most things are possible. So political engagement is a big legacy of these reports. They help inform and enable funding decisions. We see health system reform on the back of these. Tanzania has also reformatted how its referral pathways are enabled. They also allow a lot of academic engagement and adoption into professional societies, policies and activities. They allow adaptation and adoption of key messages into advocacy programs around the world and advocacy organizations around the world. And we see integration into institutions, healthcare and research campaigns. And they support and influence the investment in new infrastructure. Now, how do we then use what we're publishing to amplify that message? Well, that comes through a number of ways. Some of it is doing things like today, telling you about some of the activities we've done to hopefully find new friends and advocates in audiences so we can really push that message along. We also do a lot of teaching activities. This is one particular activity, well, there's a few here, of teaching at Credo, which is a national program in India. The middle picture was actually in Kathmandu last year. Another teaching exercise with young doctors, residents, fellows. And the final one was a lecture. But as I say, we also operate not just at the ground, we also operate at a political level. And this was earlier this year at the World Economic Forum. And you might think, well, isn't it odd that a medical journal gets invited to Davos? And I was asked to interview the Director General of the Atomic Energy Agency on the stage, broadcast interview. So no pressure. But I think it's actually really important for medical journals to be engaging at this level. Because really, who's going to fund what we need to be funded? It's going to be the big philanthropists. Yes, you can get governments on board, but as we know, politics has a lot of vagaries around it, and politicians come and go. But these big philanthropic organizations, they're at Davos every year. So when you get into a room with a bunch of billionaires and you're asking for $10 million or $100 million, it's peanuts to them. That's the place to be, to get the money. So we've done World Economic Forum twice now. But also there's other opportunities to talk with politicians, and this was earlier this year with an additional conversation this was in Washington, around the Moonshot program. There's representation from Catherine Young, who's the Associate Director of the Moonshot program, was in the audience. And this was a lineup of President of the Kenyan, of actually Aortic, which is a big Pan-African organization for research in cancer. We had an ambassador from Tanzania there. We also had the lead on the Medical Imaging, Cancer Imaging Commission, and one of our stars behind the scenes. He doesn't get enough credit really, but every commission, every series has these people behind the scenes who do all the work. And on the end here, we have one such character from Harvard, absolutely fantastic health economist. So in conclusion, what can academic journals offer? I think they can offer a platform for change. They should be more than just repositories for research and articles. They can be political. You know, at the Lancet, we're supremely political. And after all, organized medicine, equality, equity, a right to health, these are political issues. and journals can be vocal advocates for policy and intervention. And I think on that note, I will close there. So thank you for your attention. Thank you.
So thank you, Professor David. May I request you to have a seat with our chairs? So the next person, Dr. Nadim Parvez, he is the Vice President of Middle East Society of Radiation Oncology. And his topics will be on expanding collaborations from Southeast to Middle East for better cancer care. Professor Nadim Parvez.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shimon, for giving a short introduction. Thank you to organizer. I have the opportunity to come and be with the so elegant people around. For especially, I say Dr. Saiful Haq, Dr. Kamal, who invited me in here, and I make lots of new friends. So just take a moment after this thanking, only one complaint I have with the organizing committee. Why they did put me after David and before Will? I will try to survive here, but it will be a challenge for me. So I was given a talk about how we can bring the Middle East to South Asia. So it makes sense because currently I am vice chair of MESTRO. Lots of my talk being talked since yesterday keep talking about those things. So my slides will not be much different from them. We know that we have common enemy of cancer. We have global cancer burden issues. South Asia have their own challenges. Middle East have their own challenges. And we have very common barriers. We're not different anywhere in the world. There are some challenges different in South Asia than Middle East, but there are challenges. And we need to make the progress. So for this, collaboration would matter. There was a time I was thinking as a radiation oncologist, just for a short that I'm a radiation oncologist at the moment in UAE. So I was thinking I'm treating my patient in my clinic, and that is enough. I'm taking care of my patient as best as I can. But you evolve. As you grow older, you evolve. And I learned that this is not enough. I try to reach out to the people who want to benefit more people in general. For example, David, through his Lancet journal, he's doing lots of work which go internationally. The impact is international. So just treating your patient in your clinic will not be enough to contribute to society. So therefore, we come up with something which called MESTRO. Give you a little bit of the reason I will talk off the topic a bit, but just want to give you an understanding how and why MESTRO come up. So we all know there are societies, European society, American society, there are South Asian societies, actually there are many organizations in the countries, but there was none Middle Eastern society bring together. Fortunately, I actually got opportunity to go around in the world. So I born in Dhaka, and after born in Dhaka, then I raised up in Karachi. And from there, I moved to Ireland, Canada, and then came back, return journey to home area. And I landed up in Middle East, UAE, go to Saudi Arabia, go to Qatar, Oman, and now back to UAE. Doing all this journey, going around, actually making me think that, what I'm doing is enough. Do I need to do something different? So you can imagine the world is very small. I met people here. It's a small world. That my father was a doctor from Sir Salimullah Medical College, which is called SSMC, and now I'm working in SSMC in Abu Dhabi. So world is very small. I'm standing here today. So with that thought, while go around, I met many good people, and by meeting those people, if I say I, please consider we. It's never I. So we put together few people, and we say let's make a society for the Middle Eastern region. I met Anna Kirby, ISRO president, past ISRO president, and she was saying there was a black hole in the region. Middle East, there is not much representation. So these thoughts, we put together a society in the Middle Eastern region, which was actually representing the GCC countries, but also the region. So I see lots of people who are enrolling and taking membership to this society. So we thought we should not limit ourselves to the GCC country, and Middle East is a bigger world. So we took the regional country as well. We started only in 2021, so we are as old as the few societies in here. We're talking about last 3 years. So we born same time in 2021, and within 3 years we have enormous growth. I myself surprised, and I always think about how things happen. You cannot, at the moment now we have more than 2,000 membership, which within 3 years for a society is a huge number. And we actually did an annual meeting, first one in 2022, 23, and 24. All 3 meetings we did in Saudi Arabia and Al Faisal University, but now we are going to move out, and next meeting will be in UAE. So we are continuously growing, we are uniting the region, and we have the collaboration now. I listed up here, many of the organization. GCR is one of them actually, which actually we like very much to contribute recently. So we grow very quickly in 3 years. The reason I was thinking how we grow so quick for a society to come up on the map in 3 years. So I think there was a need. And all we did, we put together the things to fulfill the need. People were looking for it and then immediately jumped to it. So here are some mission and goals and key activities of the Maestro. Nothing different from any other society. We're not doing much different from other society. So our aim is to improve the cancer care. And we all here for patient basically. End of the day, whatever we talk, we want to benefit our patient. So that's our key aim. But of course, we can do that through the promotion of education, collaboration with other people, bringing up the guidelines. So there are lots of areas which we can contribute. And I actually enjoying since yesterday, the talks are around the same point. What Maestro is thinking, the same talk is going around in here in this meeting. So there are some success stories I want to share that what we did in last 3 years. So we did some collaboration with the regional and international societies. We were quite successful for that. We make a medical physics committee within Maestro, and actually we collaborated for that with the MIFOM, another federation of physicists. So Professor Saifullah is here. Actually, it was his idea that how radiation oncology is separate and medical physics is separate. We actually work together. We cannot exist without each other. So his idea was we can build a committee within Maestro that can help, so we can bring the physics and radiation oncology together. I would say we are quite successful in that for last 3 years. We have a committee, but we bring them every meeting of Maestro have a medical physics parallel session, and we are bringing during the breaks radiation oncology and medical physics together to interact with each other. So that's one of the good success I would say. Then other good success I would say that we created a brachytherapy peer review program in the region. So there are centers with no brachytherapy, and there are centers who have one brachytherapist, for example. Who will peer review that brachytherapist? There is no one in that center. So what we did is a weekly meeting for 1 hour where the many regional country participate. They log in for 1 hour through Zoom, and we discuss our cases, and we help each other with that. So that's, I would say, it's a good success. Now we created a brachytherapy group in the society, and we are going to move forward because one of the shortage or shortcome in our region I found after moving back from the West is the brachytherapy not available in every center, and also not the quality we are delivering now is not enough for our patient. So then there are many other things we did, like research. And again, this talks is going on. The research is not so much coming up from the region. That's how we don't have our own guideline. We're talking about registry, we're talking about other issues, but first we need to start from the research of our own region. So we collaborated and created a group for the research group within Maestro. With the help of that group, we did surveys to know first where we are at. And there are multiple surveys, about 5 or 6 I remember off top of my head, which we did. We published one, and there are other in the writing stages for publication. So we did the survey first. Then we go to the retrospective studies. and they are going on. And now we are talking about next meeting from January. We'll take every month one protocol which can be implemented in other center as a randomized studies. So we now have the queue of the studies proposed from the region, which we want to proceed together. So research group is another success, I would say. Then virtual crash course. So I'm member of TARO and ISRO as well. When I attend their courses, the numbers are maybe 10 to 30. We did some virtual courses which is free of the cost and is allow everyone to can attend. So we have huge number. As you know, the SARC, we are mentioning the SARC, 25% of the world population. It is nothing different for radiation oncology. So when I did the first crash course, the attendance was 250. The next one, 600 attendance. So that was like, so I did the low dose rate brachytherapy prostate, which we introduced in the region in Oman. So the first brachytherapy LDR in the region. So I did the crash course on that, and then we come as a group and did the crash course. So there is a need. So if you see this attendance, it tells you many things. It tells you that there is a need of those courses. We have a huge population, and we are eager to learn. So these are few successes. I think Mestro, there are multiple more behind the scene. Things are coming up. We are only a new organization. Will come up more for that. So I would say that we have shared challenges. So now, while talking about Mestro, so what about SFO and what about Bangladesh society? Our challenges for Middle East or South Asia are similar, maybe with little bit difference, but we all have challenges. So we have infrastructure challenges, we have training issues, we have research issues, we have awareness issues. So there are issues which are very similar, which we share in the region. I don't need to repeat because I think these being thoroughly discussed since yesterday. So when there are challenges, I like Professor Saiful's word that when there is challenge, there is an opportunity, right? So either we win or we learn. So with the challenges, we have the opportunities for collaboration. So therefore, I'm standing here talking on behalf of Mestro to the SFO people or Bangladesh society or other society, that we need to unite together. GCR is doing a great job for that. They are also coming up with some opportunities like this, that we need to come up together to improve our education, to improve our research, to improve our technology and awareness. So with the challenges, we can actually come up with the solution together. Definitely there'll be benefit of collaboration. If one person alone cannot do as much as two or more or more or more. So I would say that we can work on improvement in access of quality cancer care. Professor Saiful Haq in Emerson Oncology Conference presented his idea of radiation center in cloud, where he's talking about that, I would let him talk about his talk, but just briefly to say that his aim is to provide the best quality care everywhere in the world. A patient can be in a village in a remote area of Bangladesh, should get the same treatment as a person in America sitting in New York or somewhere else. How we can do that? So that's need collaboration. We cannot do that without collaboration. Then we need to enhance our professional development. I'm so impressed with last 2 days, medical student or junior radiation oncologists or residents, they're performing so well. It's in here, if you see that, we are in pockets of the work, pockets in here, pockets in Saudi Arabia, pockets in Pakistan. There are multiple pockets. How we bring them together? This is really a need. After attending today, I was impressed with the Mestro meeting when we were going through the peer review process of the abstract submitted for the best abstract selection. So the guy among the top one from Jordan, one from Nepal, and when I'm going through some from Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, I saw that the enormous energy and intellectual hidden in these young people is enormous. Attending here, it is expanding. So this is now, I'm really impressed. This is area, Dr. Kamal, we need to talk about it, that we need to improve on this area. So that's collaboration will bring this benefit more. I did not see any paper from Bangladesh in Metro, for example, because we were not collaborating so far. So if we collaborate, I want to see someone coming from here and stand at the stage of Metro meeting in Saudi Arabia and say, here I am and this is the work I'm doing. So therefore, I was thinking this is one of the very important area we need to touch upon. While I'm here and we are here, we should talk about it. So, of course, as I told you that, aim of all of this work, all of us, is to improve the care of our patient. That is the main goal. We should not move out of that goal. Every step we take is to help that goal. So I would say that this is the time for, I put this slide only this morning, that call to action. This is after attending here. So we need to do something. We just cannot just talk about it. We need to do something. It's just talking, we'll take another talk 5 years later, we may be talking same thing. But we need to move forward. So for this, that we need to be, I want people to actually be part of Metro as well. Whoever want to membership, it's free. I will show you the last slide where they can register. But we need to collaborate with BICC, SFO, we need to help each other, and we need to support the vision. All of our vision is same. Metro is nothing different from other societies. We are the same people. So I would say that, there are some proposal from me, but we will talk about it. Actually, you can write things, you can present things, but what you're going to do is the most important thing. That will make a difference. So we will get all the benefits for all of us, for system, for patients, for professionals, and our future direction. We can set up our future direction, how we do the work and how we collaborate together. So we need like actions, not just saying. So with this, I share a few pictures, actually, just for your interest. So if you look at the Metro, unfortunately, I didn't have access to all the picture. So this is Metro 2024, which I took from my phone. And you can see the first top picture, that how many people, this is not the all attendees, but we are growing. If I show you 2022 and 23, it's different. 24 is really different. I show you some picture there in the down bottom. These pictures are from the actually medical physics outreach program, which was actually to go to the university students and talking to them why you want to take the medical physics. I'm radiation oncologist, but I'm promoting medical physics a lot. So we did this kind of exercises among the people and give the award.
Dr. Nadim, we're running short of time, so
Yes.
please.
So this, but with this last picture, I will say. So here is the, the people come from other societies and presented. The last picture of Saiful Haq, I asked his permission. So Ismail is an 8-year-old boy, and he wants to be a brachytherapist. He's in the school now. So who will help him? So this is the role of Professor Saiful Haq, to mentor and guide, all our senior to all our junior, to help us and to promote our field. Thank you. With this is the website where you can register for free for membership. Metro. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Dr. Nadim. So may I request you to have a seat with Dr. David Collingridge. So now I would like to request Professor Dr. Wilfred Ngua. So he is a great friend of Bangladesh. So he is from Harvard Medical School and the director of Global Health Catalyst. So Professor Dr. Wilfred Ngua.
All right, good morning. I want to first start by congratulating Dr. Nadim for Metro. That's really wonderful, what you're doing. That's really, really important. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about opportunities for young oncologists in the SAARC region, but also including in Bangladesh. And so I'm part of the Global Health Catalyst. This is an initiative that we started at Harvard back in 2015. It's sponsored by the US government, and we've really created a lot of collaborations. We have some of the leaders of this initiative who are here in the auditorium, Professor Saiful Haq and Stephen Avery as well. And just yesterday, we had an MOU with Oncology Club of Bangladesh. For some of you who were able to come here, you saw that. And that's because we really want to create collaborations with such a wonderful organization to extend opportunities to the Southeast Asia region. Usually I want to start with this slide because, we all know this, but it's also really always important to just get grounded and see why we're here. Like Dr. Nadim and Professor Colin Grish mentioned before, cancer is really a big issue, right? So the recent updated statistics from the World Health Organization actually show that, it's going to be an increase of about 77% coming up. So this has been revised upwards. And that really means that we cannot continue to do things the same way we're doing. We really have to come at this in a very disruptive approach. We all have to collaborate. You heard that from the previous top speakers. And that really means that to change this narrative, we really have to do some things different. And the future of that really means all of you in this auditorium today, especially the young people, the young oncologists. That's really going to be important. But I also want to show this that was just published in the Lancet Oncology. Because my background is in radiation oncology, so I always look at this as my motivation as well. And what we see here is the disparities. Professor David mentioned about inequities and healthcare injustice, which the Lancet is really trying to address. If you look at this map, what do you see? You see the green, but you also see that Bangladesh and the SAARC countries are in part of the regions where there's these disparities in access to radiotherapy. You heard that in the previous speaker, Dr. Nadim mentioned that even for Saudi Arabia, they need more facilities, more radiotherapy systems. And so really, what can we do about this? So this is really, in thinking about a call to action, really important for us to think about how we can empower our young people and do things in a very disruptive way. So I'm part of this new US agency called Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, APA-H. It was launched by President Biden back in 2022. And basically, they are looking at this to say, we cannot continue to do things the same way we are doing right now. If we're going to change those statistics that we just talked about, we are going to have to do some things different. And so for this agency, they are saying, money is not the issue. What are your ideas? What are your ideas to change the trajectory we're looking at in the data that we just saw on cancer? And what we really see is that collaboration is going to be critical. It has to be win-win, in the sense that if you're going to do international collaborations, United States, for example, they want to see the benefit, right? So if you think about disparities, right here, we've seen that in the young speakers this morning. If you're doing something that's going to benefit Bangladesh, we want to be able to show that it's also benefiting somebody in Alabama, in the United States. So increasingly, we want to move to a model of global health where it's really win-win, right? So everybody wins in that process. So President Biden has really been championing the cancer moonshot. Obviously, this transition coming. President Trump says he wants to be the one who cures cancer. Everybody's been trying to do that. He's going to be the one. So all we need to do now is really think about how we can align that. Obviously, all of them, both of them, are focused on addressing cancer. And we all in the auditorium can be part of that as well. And so now, as we think about the future, we have to think about empowering our young oncologists. Right, that's really important. And when you sit today and you pick out your iPhone or your technology, this is the future that we imagined 20, 30 years ago, right? It was like science fiction. The fact that you can talk to your assistant on this phone now and then you can do things. Now, as we empower the next generation, we need to think about the future. What is things going to be about in 10 years, in 20 years? And really empower them. And so Einstein's quote about imagination is more important than knowledge. It really, really is important here as we think about this future. Well, when I think about the future, I think about technology. It's just going to get more crazy, right, with technology. Dr. Nadim mentioned, what Saif was talk about, the Comprehensive Cancer Center in the cloud. So one of the things that this really captures is the fact that today, with technology, we would really have to embrace that. And guess what? Young people are very excited about that. They are very excited about that. When we run a course on AI in oncology, it's thousands of people sign up, massively attended. So, if you think about, this comprehensive cancer center in the cloud, the whole idea there is that cancer prevention, treatment, right? Diagnostics, palliative care. We all have the tools now, including artificial intelligence tools that we can all bring together, to kind of address this. Think about that. It's like taking your cancer center that's comprehensive and putting that in the cloud, where it doesn't matter where you are in Bangladesh or in the SAARC region or in the US, you can access that. And just to give you an example, you can think about this as one that has to be comprehensive, means that it has care. So we actually saw during COVID-19, we could do a lot of tele-oncology and tumor boards remotely and all of those things. So we can do that. The question now is, how do you integrate all of those things? Diagnostics, AI is already massively ahead in terms of diagnosis, right? Radiologists in the United States, for example, you can think about how it's going to disrupt and change that workforce. We also have been part of the Global Health Catalyst. One of that we did here yesterday, the Global Health Catalyst Summit. And that really goes towards the outreach and engagement. Professor Collingwood showed how engaging community leaders, in meeting with the Prime Minister or the advisor, head of government of Bangladesh yesterday, and meeting with other people is really, really important for us to engage with those people. And then industry partners who are sponsoring this conference, having that. And then one other thing is the collaborations around clinical trials can be powered by AI. And then lastly, and I'm really going to focus on this a little bit more, is the education and training. For us to empower the oncologists of the future, we really have to build their capacity, right? And so one opportunity that we actually want to share, and we see that with the continuous education courses, we've really been doing this for the past couple of years, is really, these kind of courses that you can use technology to be able to do that. Continuous medical education courses can be offered online. Dr. Nadim shared some of those opportunities, but even, we've done a lot of these things in Ukraine, in Africa, in different countries. But I just want to share, and Dr. Stephen Avery is going to talk about this a little bit more in detail in this talk. This oncology, Global Oncology University is just, think about having all the didactic work that you need online with the best professors in the world, who are the best people in each of their areas, bringing them all together, contributing that, and then being able to do your practical training in a local site near you. That's been credentialed, you harmonize that education. And so partnering with Oncology Club of Bangladesh, for example, making sure that there are sites here in Bangladesh. You don't have to travel to the United States, you don't have to go to Harvard or Oxford or any of those places. You can have the same education anywhere. And so there's going to be a massive investment in this 2025, and we really want to partner with Oncology Club of Bangladesh to offer these opportunities. In fact, yesterday when we signed the MOU with them, one of the things is that with the visionary leadership of Oncology Club, they have a course coming up on training leaders of the future, and we are part of that. We're going to be supporting them. That's a very low-hanging fruit. We can start that right this month, and we're going to be providing support, including, however you need to make sure that that is successful. And then we've been talking about clinical trials. We actually have Lacey Hubbard, who's been doing wonderful work in Rwanda. So cervical cancer, we saw the young catalyst today, the young people this morning, it's a big issue here in Bangladesh. So we're going to be collaborating with you around that, including in clinical trials, in hypofractionation for radiotherapy, for example, that can increase access. And so we've been talking with the Oncology Club and the SAARC region leaders about doing these clinical trials. We're already doing some of this in Africa, these multi-center clinical trials, but it's a good opportunity now to also engage with you guys and also the young oncologists to do that. And then last, I want to share an opportunity that's coming up in 2025. So we're going to talk about the Global Health Catalyst. I mentioned it started at Harvard, so we have 10th anniversary next year. It's going to be very big. So we're going to share the opportunity to the Oncology Club to invite all of you guys, the opportunities to come there and participate and widen your network and professional development. So that's really going to be critical. So I want to end, actually show you some of the things that we are doing in terms of collaboration. As I mentioned, information and communication technology is the future with AI. And so we've been partnering with somebody who is a really brilliant Bangladeshi diaspora. He's the founder of Kambai Health. And he's been working, he's also living in the United States. So it's the kind of catalyst where we've been partnering with them to really see how we can implement some of these things locally here in Bangladesh and in the SAARC regions. So I'm going to ask him to come up to this podium and for the next 5 to 10 minutes, just share about this opportunity that, how we are working here in Bangladesh. So let's welcome Dr. Mehdi Sims, please. You're going to play the video? How many minutes do we have? Want to be very...
So maximum 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
Okay. While they're doing it, since in the interest of time, let me start talking, and whenever you're ready, I'll play the presentation. Is that? Let's see, it's playing.
Let alone technology, internet services, or even electricity.
Okay, whenever you're ready. So I need some help. I mean, I cannot really speak English very well, so I would need some help from the audience to translate things, because I'm pretty fluent in Bangla. So I see a lot of young physicians here, so I need some volunteers. So one thing I know, Dr. Hawk can, I mean, he's probably his vocabulary is very good, mine is bad. So I want to know the English word for bell. If you can, anyone knows, you could raise your hand. I don't know it. So basically the translation I need, bell pakle kaker ki. Eta ke translate korte parben. My apologies. I just need some while they're doing with the technology. Okay, so the reason why I'm saying it, you're all physicians, and this is one of the areas where I'm very nervous to talk in front of doctors.
The model of Can-Buy Health is to provide
Basically,
healthcare
the main
services
reason
to the
why
remote
I'm so
corners
nervous in front of
where people
physicians,
do not have access
because the lady who lets me stay in her place is happen to be a physician. So that's a very
healthcare,
scary
let
thing.
alone technology, internet services, or even electricity. Let's talk about how Can-Buy Health can provide healthcare services in those areas where you may have to travel hours to obtain basic healthcare services. That may include seeing a doctor but may not have any pathological lab, radiology support, or availability of appropriate medications. The cost of the transportation takes a toll both physically and financially for these marginalized people who are already sick. Also, there would be no documented health record for these patients, which makes it impossible for any methodical follow-ups. What Can-Buy Health did, we set up clinics in a remote area. We hired locals and trained them as paramedics, as medical assistants.
Sorry, that's technology. So let me just continue the conversation. So since you're all physicians and I'm not, you're probably thinking the English translation would be, what the hell are you doing here? Why are you here in the podium? We don't want to hear from you. So that's exactly what I'm trying to say. But what Dr. Engwa just said, the imagination. What we can do as technologists, we can imagine things. So the question I have to you all, including doctors, physicians, when are you going to have your next heart attack? And that's what Can-Buy Health's main goal. By the way, we're not there yet. Don't ask me that, okay? But we're working towards that. And in the meantime, I'm sorry, this presentation with technology, I mean, our technology does break things like that, but bear with us, things will get better. What we are doing is we can set up a clinic. We call it Project Middle of Nowhere, and we're working with, you probably know Elon. He doesn't necessarily know me, but he knows about my project. So we can do satellite connectivity and solar panels. We can set up clinics just like that. We can train. Sorry. Okay. So anyway, bottom line is, I want to be very direct. This presentation, I can email it to you later on. We have the capability to
Is a
serve the
collaborative effort. First, they register the patient, then document their medical history, record vitals, and connect the physicians via our telehealth platform. They are trained to perform focused physical exam per the physician's advice. The diagnosis was done by the expert physician and recommendations were noted in the medical record system. Blood tests were drawn and transported to the nearest lab, and the results were uploaded in the system. A doctor from the central office reviewed the results and contacted the patient directly via phone, and appropriate recommendations provided. There is a tiered approach to review critical cases with specialists from around the world. We have achieved the capability to roll out a new satellite clinic in 48 hours anywhere in the world. This is Kenbai Health. Let's collaborate and provide healthcare for the underprivileged. The model of Kenbai Health is to provide healthcare services.
So sorry about this messy presentation here. So I'm the technologist and the problem with the technology, my apologies. But what we are trying to say, what we can achieve, let's say your post-discharge patient goes home and almost everyone is a physician in Bangladesh without a degree, just paracetamol can out. A jaundice patient having fever,
So excuse me, doctor, we have to finish the session within the time, as you know.
Okay,
This is
thank you,
Friday.
thank you, thank you so
Thank
much.
Thank you so much. So our next presenter, Professor Garrison, he is from Palo Alto Healthcare System, USA, and he will give a talk on palliative care. So Garrison.
Well, in the interest of time, while these gentlemen set me up here, great, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you very much for having me. To be with this esteemed panel here. I don't intimidate easily, but I'm pretty intimidated today. I'm probably even more intimidated by the fact that I think I stand between the audience and lunch. So I will do my best to contain this presentation for you all. And I have to say that I must commend our organizers for including palliative care as part of this symposium. Thank you very much. All right, so let's begin with a brief exercise that I'm gonna ask all of you to imagine, let's say a distant, not a near future from now, where you, us, all of us, are perhaps facing a life-limiting illness. In this case, let's imagine here in Bangladesh. What kind of care do you want to have? Are there changes that would need to take place to have that happen? Do you have concerns? So let's start with the bad news. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have the answer for you. And I cannot solve this for you. I like to, but I can't, right? And because these solutions are gonna be specific to the various countries that are represented here, and perhaps even within your own country, depending on your practice setting. Those solutions might be different, and they have to be unique to your circumstance, right? But the good news is, I've met some wonderful palliative care experts and colleagues here at this meeting, and I know they will take everyone here to bridge these gaps and solve it together. So here's the good news. The good news is that you are the experts. You know your home institutions. You know your country. You know the culture much better than I do. And so, why am I here? I don't have the solution for you, but I think what I can share with you all today is that in the many years that we've done this work, let's say we, perhaps I, have made my share of mistakes. And so I think what may be valuable for me to offer you all today is an opportunity to learn from our mistakes and to not repeat them. All right, so lesson number one is that it turns out not everybody needs to be a healthcare expert. We need them, right? And we need folks to develop some primary healthcare skills, right? That we have generalists and we have specialists, right? As a healthcare physician, I know some things about oncology, about cardiology, and other specialties, but I don't have to be that specialist, right? But when we think about our trainees, our students, right, that we have identified core knowledge and core subject matter materials that we teach to them in school, in residency, in training, right? And in turn, how do we do that as a newer specialty in palliative care in your own context? What are those core things that you want your students and the next generation of not just physicians, but healthcare professionals, for them to learn, for them to incorporate into their knowledge base and skill set, right? And I will also encourage you all to think even more broadly about other opportunities, right? Like community members, right? Families, volunteers, laypersons. How do we leverage that for the benefit of our patients? And frankly, at some point, ourselves. Right? So education is going to be really important, as you all know. And I know that I'm preaching to the converted here. So, let's think about that learning tension and the growth curve, and what are the behaviors then we want the next generation to inhabit and embody, right? And think about these crucial learning issues. So here's an interesting thing that I want to bring up briefly, that this concept of pedagogy versus andragogy, right? That learning for children versus adult learners, right? This is the what do I have to learn, that you must learn your multiplication table, versus as a professional, as an adult learner, what do I want to learn, right? This conference is a perfect example of this. You all have the choice to go to various sessions, different tracks that you, as an adult learner, as a professional, are interested in, okay, right? And so there's this matter of choice, right? And I think this is interesting, right? I do not read, I hate to say, the Lancet from cover to cover. I choose the articles that are applicable to me that I read, right? And this is okay, right? But there's a certain amount of self-reflection and honesty and courage that's required. Because as an adult learner, then I have to confront the idea of what I do not know. Perhaps even more daunting is for me to have the courage to admit there's some things I'm less interested in knowing, and perhaps, goodness, I don't care to know. And I'm not going to read that article. And I'm not going to go to that session. Right? But the beautiful thing is that where you all work and where I work, and we're seeing this in this meeting here, is that there are a lot of other experts. And I have wonderful colleagues where I work that are experts in their fields. And so we can lean into that, right? And the other important thing is when I go to those experts, here is the lesson number 2, right? My colleagues are not my students, right? We think about teaching the pedagogy part to our students, right? But when we're approaching our colleagues, we have to think about adult learners, andragogy, right? And so my colleagues are not my students. It doesn't help. I'll make a confession here. Nephrology, turns out, not my favorite subject in medical school. As you can tell, I didn't become a nephrologist, right? But I have wonderful, very smart nephrology colleagues that I can go to, right? And the important thing is when I go to them and I ask questions, they don't make me feel stupid, right? They don't say, oh my gosh, Gary, how did you end up at Stanford? I thought you were smarter than this. Shouldn't you know all these things about nephrology? No, right? And it turns out, as clinicians, that's also bad for business, right? And I know there's the art of medicine, there's the science of medicine, But let's face it, there's also the business of medicine, right? And so when we work together, when we can collaborate with other experts, then that is where we can really start to make change. And as our other colleagues have said, I won't belabor the point, right? But lesson number 3 here is collaborate and cooperate, that we are better together, right? And so in thinking about oncology, when I think about my patients with metastatic bony metastases and disease, right, we're better together. I work with my medical oncologist, we work with our radiation oncologist, we work with our orthopedic surgeons. A palliative pinning procedure may be very palliating. And we work with our nuclear medicine specialists, right? And so we're better together. Now, as you identify these many gaps, and if you do it right, you may find a few more than you anticipated, that you may recognize, as others have noted, that system change is required, right? And in medicine, we often talk about lumpers versus splitters. I tend to be more of a lumper, okay? So the way I think about it is, I think about what are the infrastructure needs as I identify these gaps. And I think about what are the superstructure needs, right? And what are the resources that need to be leveraged to address these different needs and different issues. And they must be addressed if we want to make the appropriate changes, right? So lesson number 4 then is to identify the key stakeholders, right? And how to tailor these messages to your stakeholders, right? And even better than just stakeholders, our friends and allies. Friends and allies who will go to bat and advocate for you on your behalf, right? There's nothing better. You know, it's one thing for me to go to the dean of medical school, to go to the CEO of the hospital and say, I need these things. But boy, ain't nothing better than when the department chair of surgery or the chair of oncology advocates on my behalf and say, you know, I think we need more palliative care clinics. We need that. Okay. So the rule here is nothing about me without me, right? I'm here attending this wonderful conference. I would be pretty upset if I went home next week to find that while I was gone, meetings happened and certain things got assigned to me, right? All right. So lesson number 5 here is start small, go for easy, right? And that doesn't mean that we don't dream big. Please, dream big. But practically speaking, right, what we've learned is that success feels good and builds more success. Sometimes at places like where I work, we want big, fancy, big projects. And when you can get those projects off the ground, that's wonderful, right? Don't let me stop you from doing that, right? But when that feels too daunting and too much, particularly when perhaps your resources may be constrained, right? Then think about those small tests of change that you can implement right away, right? I'm gonna quote one of my new friends and new colleagues that I met yesterday in our session, Dr. Zanat, who said, it's better to do small well than to do big badly. And I think she's very, very right about that. So the last thing I want to share with you all is this. As we embark on various projects over the years, one of the things I often remind my partners, my colleagues, my students is this. What are the wants, needs, and fears, right? And this works well in palliative care with our patients and families. And it turns out it works well for us too, right? Wants and needs are not always the same. Sometimes it is, but often it isn't. And it's important to discern the difference, right? And like our patients, sometimes we're stopped by uncertainty and the unknown, right? So I ask that you think about your own learning intention, what motivates you. I encourage you to lean into your expertise, your commitment, your compassion, and your courage to do better for your patients as we all work together to bridge these gaps. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Garrison. So can you have a seat over there? So may I request all the speakers to take the memento from our chairperson. Sir, Professor Mehai and Professor Salam, sir.
I would like to request our respected chairperson to present the crest to our distinguished speakers as a token of appreciation for their excellent presentations and contribution to the field of oncology. I request Dr. David Collins Khaled Chris from the Professor M.A. Hi, sir.
So can you please stand a while for a picture? Now I would like to request our chairpersons to give their remarks regarding their presentations. So Professor M.A. Salam, sir.
Actually, I am very much thankful to the organizers for this very kind invitation to this to chair this excellent and possibly the most important session of this conference. Here we met so many experts. David Colin Rees, who came from the house of the Lancet Oncology, which is a very favorite platform for me also. And we understand the Lancet Oncology is doing a lot of works in the developing areas, including Bangladesh. In the last urological meeting, SIU in New Delhi, a Lancet Commission has given a wonderful proposition. And that proposition is all the cancers, if you can detect early, then you can cure. So screening is important. By our natural resistance, we are very much resistant to screening for all the cancers because it is expensive for the government, but we can make it simplified and that the doctor can take a part. Not only that, education of the doctor is also important, and also social media we can use. Say, for example, in our subject, we can ask the patient to do a PSA test, simple blood test, to understand whether you have got a prostate cancer or not at the age of, from the age of 55 every year. So all these information boost us to have a screening program, if not national screening program, at least personal screening program. So all this thought-bearing concept is very, very useful. So I thank you very much for this collaboration. So Nadim Parvez has opened a new area, and that collaboration through the Maestro has not been explored by us. He has very clearly said that Bangladesh didn't have any publication or any association with this organization. But in time we will do it. I hope this will be a good idea. And the last two speakers, Nagwa and Gray Hassin, both of the speaker has helped us to imagine and also float in the dream. So we need to have good imagination and also a dream. And finally, we need to implement it. So they have given enough input. I thank both of them. Having said that, I would like to have some comment from our chairperson, the Professor M.A. Hai.
Thank you, Professor Salam. I have nothing to comment. Now I am starting to look that possibly we are going to the right path. We have so many helping hands, so many helping and guide. We have so many guides. Hopefully we shall be doing everything nicely. And in future, where I am seeing light, possibly will be. For grace of Almighty Allah, inshallah we shall do it. Thank you all very much.